The doors of the grand hall opened slowly, and light poured in from the entrance. Princess sat beside her father on the raised platform, watching as the first humans she had ever seen walked into the room. She had heard stories about them. The galaxy called them strange. They were soft. They were small. They lived short lives on a single blue planet at the edge of known space. Many species did not understand why the Empire had agreed to meet with them at all. But her father, Emperor Iran, believed in knowing all species before judging them. So he had invited the humans to the Imperial for the first diplomatic summit between their kinds. Expected them to look weak. She expected them to seem afraid. She was wrong. The human delegation walked in with calm confidence. They wore dark uniforms with silver markings. Their leader, a tall man with gray hair, walked at the front. He carried himself like someone who had seen many battles and survived them all. Behind him came diplomats and advisors, and at the edges walked the soldiers. That was when saw him. He was younger than the others. His hair was dark brown, cut short. His eyes moved slowly across the room, taking in every detail. He did not look nervous. He did not look impressed. He simply observed like a hunter studying new territory. Something about him made sit up in her seat. The nobles whispered among themselves. They towered over the humans by at least 2 feet. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light of the hall. Next to them the humans looked so ordinary, so plain, but could not stop looking at the soldier. Emperor Iran stood and raised one hand. The hall fell silent. "Welcome to the heart of the Empire," he said. His voice echoed through the crystal walls. "You have traveled far. We honor your journey." The gray-haired human stepped forward and bowed his head slightly. "I am Admiral Victor Grant. On behalf of Earth and the United Human Coalition, I thank you for this opportunity, Emperor. We come in peace and hope for friendship between our peoples." The Emperor nodded. His face showed no warmth but no hostility either. "Peace is earned, Admiral. Trust is built. Let us see what your kind is made of." The formal greetings continued. Diplomats exchanged words. Gifts were presented. His brother Prince watched the humans with cold eyes. He had made his feelings clear before the summit. He did not trust them. He did not want them here. But felt differently. She felt curious. Her eyes kept drifting back to the soldier. He stood near the edge of the delegation, hands clasped behind his back. He never spoke. He simply watched and waited. At one point, as if sensing her gaze, he looked up. Their eyes met. Felt something flutter in her chest. It was strange. It was unexpected. She had met princes from a dozen worlds. She had been courted by nobles with power and wealth beyond measure. None of them had made her feel anything. But this human, this simple soldier, made her heart beat faster with just one glance. She looked away quickly, hoping no one had noticed. The ceremony ended, and the humans were led to their quarters in the eastern wing of the palace, excused herself and returned to her chambers. Her handmaiden, a quiet woman named, helped her remove her ceremonial robes. "You seem distracted, Princess," said softly. Hesitated. "The humans are interesting. They are small." "Yes, but there is something about them." She paused. "Did you see the soldiers, the young one with dark hair?" Thought for a moment. "I believe his name is Cole. He is the personal guard for the human ambassador." Cole repeated. The name felt strange on her tongue. Human names were so simple, so short. "Why do you ask, Princess?" Did not answer. She walked to her window and looked out at the glowing city below. That was beautiful, perfect, controlled. Every building was placed with precision. Every garden was shaped by design. She had lived here her entire life. She had followed every rule. She had done everything expected of her. And she had never felt alive. But today, for just a moment, when that human soldier looked at her, she had felt something new, something real. "Tell me about humans," she said quietly. Look surprised. What would you like to know? Everything. That night brought old records and reports about humanity. She learned that humans lived on a world with wild weather. They had storms that destroyed cities. They had seasons that changed the entire planet. They had wars that lasted centuries. And yet they survived, they adapted, they kept going. She learned that humans felt emotions deeply. They loved with passion. They mourned with great sorrow. They formed bonds that lasted lifetimes. They were not like this. They valued control. They valued calm. Strong emotions were seen as weakness. But had always felt things deeply. She had always hidden it. Now she wondered if there was a species out there that would not see her feelings as a flaw. She thought about Cole. She thought about the way he stood so still and calm. She thought about his eyes, dark and steady, and the brief moment they had shared across the crowded hall. She wanted to know more. She wanted to talk to him. It was foolish. It was impossible. She was a princess of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. He was a soldier from a small, distant world. But had spent her whole life being careful. She had spent her whole life following rules. Maybe it was time to do something different. She closed the reports and made a decision. Tomorrow, she would find a way to speak with him. She would learn who Cole really was. And maybe, just maybe, she would finally understand why her heart had stirred the moment he stepped into the grand hall. 3 days passed after the welcoming ceremony. Found herself thinking about the human soldier more than she wanted to admit. She watched the delegation from a distance whenever she could. She memorized their schedule. She learned which paths they took through the palace. It was foolish behavior for a princess. She knew this, but she could not stop herself. On the 4th morning, she made her move. The palace gardens were a place of peace. Giant crystal flowers grew beside pools of still water. The air smelled sweet, and soft music played from hidden speakers built into the stone. Knew the humans had been given permission to walk there during their free hours. She dressed simply and went alone. She found Cole standing beside one of the smaller pools. He was looking at the water, watching the tiny silver fish swim in circles. He seemed lost in thought. Approached slowly. Her heart was beating fast. "The fish are called," she said. Turned quickly. His hand moved toward his side where a weapon would normally be. Then he recognized her and relaxed. He bowed his head. "Princess, forgive me. I did not hear you coming." "You were distracted." She smiled slightly. "That does not seem like good behavior for a soldier." "You are right." He looked at her with those calm, steady eyes. "It will not happen again." They stood in silence for a moment. Did not know what to say. She had planned this meeting, but now that she was here, her words had disappeared. "May I ask why you are here, Princess?" said. His voice was polite but careful. "I wanted to see the gardens." "They are beautiful." "Yes," she paused, "but I have seen them many times. I wanted something new." Seemed to understand what she meant. A small smile appeared on his face. And talking to a human is new. Very new. She stepped closer to the pool and stood beside him. "Tell me about your world. Tell me about Earth." Was quiet for a moment, then he spoke. "Earth is messy," he said. "It has oceans that cover most of the surface, blue and green and gray. The weather changes without warning. One day the sun shines. The next day storms come. Snow falls in some places. In others, the heat is so strong you can barely breathe." Listened closely. On her world, the climate was controlled. Every day was the same. She could not imagine living in such chaos. "That sounds difficult," she said. "It is, but it is also beautiful." Looked at the sky above them. When you see the sun rise over the mountains, or watch waves crash against rocks, or feel rain on your skin for the first time after a dry summer, you understand why we love it. The chaos makes it real. Felt something stir inside her. "I have never felt rain." "Never." "Our weather is controlled. It only rains when scheduled and only in certain areas." shook his head slowly. That seems sad to me. Rain is one of the best things about being alive. They talked for a long time, told her about forests and deserts and cities built by the sea. He told her about seasons, about how the world changed color in autumn and turned white in winter. He told her about the stars as seen from Earth and how humans had always dreamed of reaching them. Told him about her world. She told him about the crystal caves beneath the palace, where the walls glowed with ancient light. She told him about the strict rules of court life, the expectations placed upon her, and the loneliness of being a princess. Listened without interrupting. He did not judge her, he did not offer advice, he simply listened. When they finally parted, felt lighter than she had in years. They met again the next day, and the day after that. Each time they talked more openly, taught her human phrases, she taught him words, they laughed at each other's mistakes, they shared stories. Showed him the crystal caves, leading him through secret passages that only the royal family knew. The walls glowed blue and purple around them, looked at the beauty with wonder in his eyes. "This is amazing," he said softly. "I used to come here as a child," told him, "when the palace felt too heavy, when I needed to escape." Turned to look at her. "Do you still need to escape?" She met his eyes, less now. The connection between them grew stronger each day, but they were not alone in noticing. Prince found in the corridor one evening. His face was hard with anger. "I have seen you with the human," he said coldly. "Do you know what you are doing?" "I am talking to a guest of our empire." "You are shamming our family," stepped closer. "He is beneath you, he is beneath all of us. These humans are weak creatures from a small world, they have nothing to offer. You do not know him." "I do not need to know him." The eyes narrowed. "In this, before father finds out." He walked away without waiting for her answer. That night could not sleep. She knew her brother was right about one thing. If her father learned of her feelings, there would be consequences. The alliance could be damaged. Her family's honor could be questioned. But when she thought about, none of that seemed to matter. Dawson, the human diplomat, also noticed. She spoke to quietly after a meeting. "Be careful," she warned. "I see how you look at her. I see how she looks at you. This could destroy everything we have worked for." "I know," said. "Then stop." He did not answer. The next time and met, they stood together in the gardens under the pale light of the twin moons. The air was cool and silent. "I have never felt this way about anyone," whispered. "I do not understand it." Was quiet for a long moment, then he spoke. "I feel the same, but I cannot act on it. My duty is to protect my people. If I put that at risk for my own heart, I would not be the man you think I am." Felt tears form in her eyes. "So we do nothing. We pretend this is not real." Took her hand gently. It was the first time he had touched her. "I am not pretending," he said, "but I need to be careful for both of us." Held his hand tightly and said nothing. She knew he was right, but knowing did not make it hurt any less. The grand banquet was held on the 10th night of the summit. The great hall was filled with nobles from across the empire. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting rainbow light across the room. Music played softly as servants moved between the tables with food and drink. Emperor Oran sat at the head of the largest table. Beside him sat his children, prince and princess. Across from them sat Admiral Grant and the senior members of the human delegation. Stood near the wall with the other security officers. His eyes moved constantly across the room. He had been trained to notice danger before it happened. Tonight, something felt wrong. The speeches began. The Emperor spoke about progress and hope. Admiral Grant responded with words of friendship and cooperation. The crowd clapped politely. Glasses were raised. Glanced toward, he did not look back. He was too focused on his duty. The dinner continued. Conversations filled the air. Laughter echoed off the walls. Then saw it. A servant near the far entrance moved differently than the others. His steps were too quick. His hands were hidden beneath his tray. His eyes were locked on the Emperor. Did not hesitate. He pushed through the crowd, shoving nobles aside. People shouted in surprise. Guards turned in confusion, but was faster than all of them. The servant pulled a weapon from beneath the tray. It was a small energy pistol designed to kill silently. He aimed it at the Emperor. Reached them just in time. He grabbed the Emperor and pulled him to the ground as the weapon fired. The energy blast hit in the shoulder instead of the Emperor's chest. Pain exploded through his body. He fell to the floor. The hall erupted into chaos. Guards swarmed the attacker and brought him down. Nobles screamed and ran. The music stopped. Saw fall, she did not think. She did not care about protocol or appearances. She ran to him. She dropped to her knees beside him. Blood was spreading across his uniform. His face was pale, but his eyes were open. "I am fine," he said through gritted teeth. "Just a scratch." "You are not fine." Tears streamed down her face. "Someone help him." The guards stood frozen. They did not know what to do. A human had just saved their Emperor's life. This was not something they had expected. Admiral Grant pushed through the crowd and knelt beside. "Get him to the medical wing. Now." The guards finally moved. They lifted carefully and carried him away. Tried to follow, but her brother grabbed her arm. "What are you doing?" hissed. "The whole court is watching." "I do not care." She pulled free and ran after. The medical wing was quiet and clean. Human and doctors worked together to treat's wound. The energy blast had damaged muscle and bone, but it had missed his vital organs. He would survive. Waited outside the treatment room. She refused to leave. Hours passed. Finally, a doctor came out and told her she could see him. Lay on a bed, his shoulder wrapped in white bandages. He looked tired, but he smiled when he saw her. "You should not be here," he said. "I should be exactly here." She sat beside him and took his hand. "You saved my father's life." "It is my job." "No, your job is to protect the human ambassador. My father is not your responsibility." Was quiet for a moment. "I saw the weapon. I saw where it was aimed. I did not think about who was in danger. I just acted." Squeezed his hand. "That is what makes you different. You do not think about politics or species or duty. You just do what is right." The door opened, and Emperor Iran walked in. Stood quickly, fear flashing across her face. But her father did not look angry. He looked thoughtful. "Leave us," the Emperor said to his daughter. "Father, leave us." Hesitated, then bowed her head and left the room. She waited in the corridor, her heart pounding. Inside, the Emperor stood over his bed. The human tried to rise, but the Emperor raised a hand. "Stay, you are injured because of me." "I was doing my duty, Your Majesty." "No, your duty was to your own people. You had no reason to save me." The Emperor's voice was heavy. "Why did you do it?" Thought carefully before answering. "Because it was the right thing to do. Because if you had died, the Alliance would have died with you. Because your daughter loves you, and I did not want her to lose her father." The Emperor stared at him for a long moment. His expression was unreadable. "My people believe humans are weak," he said finally. "They believe you are a lesser species, emotional, reckless, short-lived." "We are all of those things," admitted. "But we are also loyal. We protect those we care about, even when it costs us everything." The Emperor nodded slowly. "I am beginning to understand." He turned and walked to the door. Before leaving, he paused. "Thank you, Cole. I will not forget what you did tonight." Then he was gone. Came back in immediately. She rushed to his side and held his hand again. "What did he say?" "He thanked me." "That is all." "That is everything," smiled weakly. "Your father is not as cold as he seems." Leaned closer, her voice dropped to a whisper. "I was so scared. When I saw you fall, I thought I had lost you. You did not lose me. But I could have, and I realized something. She looked into his eyes. I do not care about politics anymore. I do not care about protocol or what the court thinks. I want to be with you, whatever that means, whatever it costs. Reached up and touched her face gently. Are you sure? This will not be easy. Nothing worth having is easy. She smiled through her tears. You taught me that. He pulled her close, and she rested her head on his chest, careful not to touch his wounded shoulder. Outside, the Empire buzzed with news of what had happened. A human had saved the Emperor. A princess had shown her heart to the world. Everything was about to change. News of the assassination attempt spread across the Empire like fire. But it was not the attack that people talked about most. It was what came after, the princess running through the hall, the princess kneeling beside the wounded human, the princess crying and holding his hand for all to see. Within hours, everyone knew. The Emperor's youngest daughter had feelings for a human soldier. The court was divided. Some nobles thought it was a beautiful thing. They said it showed that humans and could truly connect. Others were disgusted. They called it a scandal. They said the princess had shamed her bloodline. Prince was furious. He stormed into his father's chamber the morning after the attack. His face was tight with anger. This cannot continue, he said. Has embarrassed our family. She has embarrassed the entire empire. Emperor Iran sat at his desk, reading reports. He did not look up. She showed concern for someone who saved my life. She showed more than concern. Everyone saw it. The way she looked at him, the way she touched him. His voice rose. She loves him, father, a human, a creature that will be dead in 50 years while she lives for centuries. I am aware of human. Then do something. Send the humans away. End this before it goes further. The Emperor finally looked up. His eyes were cold. I owe that human my life. I will not repay that debt by throwing him out like garbage. Opened his mouth to argue, but his father raised a hand. Enough, I will handle this in my own way. That afternoon, the Emperor called a meeting of the full court. Nobles gathered in the great hall once more. The human delegation stood on one side. The elite stood on the other. In the center stood Princess. She had been summoned without explanation. She did not know what was about to happen. Was there too, despite his injury. He stood with the humans, his shoulder still bandaged, his face calm. Emperor Iran rose from his throne and addressed the crowd. A great thing happened last night. My life was saved by a human soldier named Cole. He acted without thought for himself. He put his body between me and death. This is something we must honor. The crowd murmured in agreement. But another thing happened as well. The Emperor's gaze moved to his daughter. My daughter revealed her heart to the Empire. She cares for this human. Perhaps she even loves him. The murmuring grew louder. Some voices sounded angry, others curious. This creates a problem, the Emperor continued. Our traditions do not allow for unions between royalty and outsiders without proof of worth. Knows this. Cole does not. He turned to face the human delegation directly. Cole, you have shown bravery. But bravery alone is not enough to earn a place in the royal family of the Empire. If you wish to pursue my daughter, you must prove yourself through the ancient trials. The hall went silent. Stepped forward. Father, please, the trials are meant for suitors. They are designed for our strength, our bodies. A human cannot. A human saved my life, the Emperor interrupted. Perhaps a human can surprise us again. Admiral Grant spoke up. What exactly are these trials? It was Dawson who answered. She had studied culture for years. There are 3 trials: combat, wisdom, heart. Those who wish to marry into the royal family must pass all 3. Many have tried, not all have survived. Felt the weight of every eye in the room. He looked at. Her face was pale with fear. Then he looked at the Emperor. I accept. The crowd gasped, laughed coldly. You do not know what you are agreeing to, the prince said. Warriors have died in these trials. You are a soft human with a wounded shoulder. You will not last an hour. Maybe, said calmly, but I will try. Admiral Grant pulled aside after the assembly ended. His face was serious. Are you sure about this? We came here for diplomacy, not romance. If you die in these trials, it could damage relations between our species. Or it could strengthen them, replied. If a human can pass the trials meant for, it proves we belong here. It proves we are worthy of respect. The admiral studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You always were stubborn. He put a hand on Sgood's shoulder. Do not die. That night found in the gardens. The moons were bright overhead. The air was cool and still. You did not have to do this, she said. Her voice was trembling. Yes, I did. The trials are dangerous. People have died. Strong warriors have died. I know. Then why risk everything? He turned to face her. His eyes were steady and calm, the same way they had been the first day she saw him. Because you are worth it, he said simply. Because I would rather die trying to be with you than live safely without you. Felt tears fall down her cheeks. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, careful of his wounded shoulder. You foolish human, she whispered. Yes, he held her close, but I am your foolish human. They stood together under the twin moons, knowing that tomorrow everything would change. The trials would begin. The Empire would be watching. And Cole would show them all what humanity was truly made of. The ancient trial grounds had not been used in over 30 years. They lay deep beneath the palace, carved from black stone and lit by glowing crystals. Thousands have gathered in the viewing platforms above. Every seat was filled. Every eye was watching. Cole stood in the center of the arena. His shoulder had healed enough for him to move freely, though pain still flashed through him when he raised his arm too high. He wore simple clothing. No armor, no weapons. Princess sat in the royal box beside her father and brother. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap. She had not slept the night before. Emperor Iran stood and raised his hand. The crowd fell silent. The trials begin, he announced. May honor guide the challenger. The first trial was combat. A gate opened on the far side of the arena. A warrior stepped out. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with muscles that looked like carved stone. In his hands he held a long staff with glowing edges. Was given the same weapon. It felt heavy and unfamiliar in his grip. The warrior attacked without warning. He moved faster than expected. The staff swung toward his head and barely ducked in time. He rolled to the side, his shoulder screaming in protest. The crowd watched in silence. Many expected this to end quickly, but did not fall. He could not match the in strength or speed. He knew this, so he did not try. Instead, he watched. He studied. He learned the patterns of his opponent's movements. The warrior attacked again and again, each time dodged or blocked. He took hits to his arms and legs. He was knocked down twice, but each time he got back up. The warrior grew frustrated. His attacks became wilder, less controlled. Saw his chance. When the warrior overextended on a heavy swing, stepped inside his reach. He swept the warrior's legs out from under him and brought his staff down on his chest. The crowd gasped. The warrior lay on his back, the tip of staff at his throat. The fight was over. Had won through patience and strategy. He had used his opponent's strength against him. The emperor nodded slowly. The first trial is complete. Let out a breath she did not know she was holding. The second trial was wisdom. Was led to a chamber filled with ancient machines and puzzles. In the center sat a device made of moving crystals and light. It was a puzzle that had existed for thousands of years. Many scholars had spent lifetimes trying to solve it. Had 1 hour. He studied the device carefully. The crystals moved in patterns that seemed random at first, but as he watched, he began to see connections. They had designed this puzzle based on their own way of thinking. Their logic was orderly and structured. But was human. He did not think like a. He started moving crystals in ways that seemed wrong. He broke the expected patterns. He combined pieces that were never meant to go together. The observers whispered among themselves. They thought he was failing. Then, with 10 minutes left, the device clicked. The crystals aligned. Light poured from the center. The puzzle was solved. Had done in 1 hour what scholars could not do in centuries. He had thought differently. He had found a new path. Prince stared in disbelief. This was not possible. This human should not be winning. The third trial was the trial of heart. Was brought to a small room. Inside, a holographic figure appeared. It was a perfect image of a human starship, beautiful and sleek. A voice spoke from nowhere. Before you is a ship. If you board it now, you will be taken home to Earth as a hero. Your people will celebrate you. Your name will be remembered forever. You will live a comfortable life among your own kind. Looked at the ship. Or you can stay, the voice continued. If you stay, you will face a life of challenge. You will always be an outsider. Your years will be short compared to those around you. You will grow old while the one you love remains young. Choose now. Did not hesitate. I stay. The hologram vanished. Why, the voice asked. Why choose hardship over comfort? Answered simply. Because love is not about comfort. It is about choosing someone every day, even when it is hard. Is my choice. She will always be my choice. Silence filled the room. Then the door opened, and light flooded in. The crowd in the arena was standing. They had heard his answer through speakers built into the walls. Many of them had tears in their eyes. Emperor Oran descended from his platform and walked across the arena floor. He stopped in front of. You have passed all 3 trials, the emperor said. You have shown strength without cruelty, wisdom without arrogance, and a heart that chooses love over glory. He placed a hand on shoulder. I was wrong about humans, he said quietly. You are not weak. You are simply strong in ways we did not understand. He turned to the crowd and raised his voice. I declare Cole worthy. He shall be welcomed into the nobility. He shall have my blessing to court my daughter. The crowd erupted in cheers. Ran from the royal box. She crossed the arena floor and threw herself into his arms. He caught her and held her tight, despite the pain in his shoulder. You did it, she whispered against his neck. I told you, he said, you were worth it. The celebration lasted for 3 days. Humans and danced together. Old suspicions began to fade. Something new was being built. Admiral Grant watched from the edge of the Grand Hall as and stood together before the crowd. He smiled. You know, Dawson said beside him, I thought this mission would be about treaties and trade agreements. So did I. Instead, it became a love story. Grant nodded. Maybe that is what the galaxy needed. Not more politics, just proof that 2 people from different worlds can find each other. In the center of the hall, Took's hand. She looked at him with shining eyes. What happens now? She asked. I do not know, he admitted, but we will figure it out together. She smiled. Together, I like that word. He leaned in and kissed her. The crowd cheered louder than before. The alliance between humans and was sealed that night, not by signatures on paper or promises from politicians. It was sealed by something stronger. It was sealed by love.